So the idea of getting to know your people deeply, empathizing with them, trying to understand their needs and then provide for those needs is fantastic. And what if you work at a school where you do all those things and the toxicity and the negative relationships persist?
I don't think there are toxic people. I think people behave in certain ways for certain reasons. And so by labeling toxic, you already are conjuring up a whole bunch of assumptions, which lead to a whole bunch of behaviors. And I want to break that down and say, well, what do you mean they're toxic? I don't think there is any such thing as a dysfunctional school, because every school is organized to produce the result it's currently getting.
Oh Lord, can you say that again, Marty? Can you say that one more time?
There is no such thing as a toxic school, because every school is organized to produce the result it is currently getting. And it's organized, the current reality is not a mistake. It's the product of a lot of conscious and not so conscious decisions of the way we want it to be. Toxicity as a manifestation, in my experience, not necessarily in education, but in generally, is a product of people's anxiety, their fears, maybe their hopes, maybe their disappointments, and trying to understand what that's about, rather than saying we don't allow that toxicity here, seems to me the beginning of the way to move through it. When you start out by saying, this person is a bad person, you're already, I think, setting yourself back enormously in trying to make progress with that person.
And you'll get the results exactly that you're designed to get. You'll get those results, okay.
Mm.
So understanding the person, understanding their motivations, and then what's the first step? Would we surface with people what it is? How?
Well, I think it's a retail business and a hotel business. So if I'm dealing with someone who other people think is a toxic person, I'm going to try to understand where that behavior comes from.
Okay.
What is it about?
Okay.
You know, how did they grow up? What is their home life like? What is their record in school like? What's going on with this person? Why are they behaving in ways which, by any objective observer, is not helping making progress for themselves or for the community as a whole? Then when you begin to understand that, you can begin to think about how are you going to deal with that particular individual or group of individuals, because you understand what is driving them crazy, right? You can't change their behavior unless you understand what is producing the current behavior.
Exactly.
So it may be in conversation, it may be a product of kind of analysis and diagnosis, it may be talking to people that they know, you know, and trying to understand what's going on for them. When each of us, nobody goes to bed at night saying, what a great day I've had, I've been a toxic person again today, you know?
I've been horrid.
Right, I've been a horrible person today. Everybody goes to bed at night telling themselves a story in which usually they're at least a neutral character, if not the hero of the story, right? Well,
the hero usually, yes.
But trying to understand what that story is that they're telling themselves and why that works for them and why it helps explain to them the misfortune that they've had seems to me to be the beginning of a way of getting through to people. I don't know, have you this new book called Hillbilly Elegy?
No, I haven't heard of it.
It's fantastic book. And it's written by a guy who ended up going to Yale Law School eventually, but he grew up in Kentucky and Southern Ohio in hillbilly land. And it's it's really wonderful. It's a memoir, but it's just very powerful. But he talks a lot about how the culture, which we sitting here on the coast think of as toxic,
hillbilly,
right? As unproductive, but where it comes from and why it is the way it is now. Now, in order to address that, so for example, if we want to pick up on that example, if somebody is going to deal with the anger and the anxiety in West Virginia now, it's not going to be by going down there and telling people to suck it up, coal is dead, right? That's not going to help, right? All that's going to make them feel is more alienated, more marginalized, angrier. But trying to understand what does it feel like when you're 50 years old, your IRA has gone down the tube, you've got no future in the industry and you don't have enough money to stop working, what does that feel like every day? And what does it take to connect with that person?
And to the only life you know. That is
Yes.
the only life you know.
Right.
It's the life you know. So if I were going to take what you just said and sort of generalize it, when I think about urban schools, the urban schools we work in, oftentimes urban schools hire brand new teachers who are underprepared. And urban schools are hard work. You talked about your daughter-in-law earlier just working like crazy. Urban practitioners work so very hard. So if we were to understand that oftentimes in urban schools we have underprepared teachers who do not know how to meet the needs of kids. They have no idea. They don't have the skill set. They're not skilled enough to do that. So how might we have a conversation with them about that?
I think my experience suggests that beginning to acknowledge that to them, you know, we've put you in an untenable place. You know, we've asked you to do something that's possible. You need to help us understand what you need to make it work.
So we can make it work for you. Yeah.
Um,
It's a whole different frame and lens and way to look at the
Instead of, I've got another mousetrap for you to try.
Yeah.
Right?
How can I help you be
yeah,
more successful in this very difficult job?
Because it's like I feel about politics. Most people don't feel this way about politics, but I feel that way. But it's easy to say this about teachers. I don't know how you can go into teaching without having some nobility. You know, it just, and I think that's true about politics too. Maybe a little less with most politicians than with most teachers. But you can't think of yourself as going to spend a career in teaching unless there's something in your heart about wanting to help kids learn. Right? Well, if you can connect, find that place in that person and nurture it and let it grow and flourish and give them the resources to feel good about themselves, that will, I think, in my experience, undermine a lot of that toxicity, which is not because they're bad people, but because they're exhausted, under-resourced, and scared shitless when they walk into the classroom.
Exactly. It's so beautifully, elegantly simple, it makes me want to weep. So I thank you, Marty Linsky.